Right, disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing, nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, I got this from the Los Angeles Times, and this is a very recent article. LAPD can't get rid of their bad cops. Here's what they want to do about it. It just drives me crazy that people don't capitalize titles anymore. And it's really anal, but it bugs me. And then this is the Los Angeles Police Department's headquarters. By Laborde Janney, staff writer, March 13th, 2024. It read like a typical job listing for an attorney. Successful candidates could expect to cross-examine witnesses, research case law, and write briefs, with a starting salary that topped out at roughly $221,000. But as the job description posted on the career website Indeed last year made clear, these wouldn't be just any cases. The targets would be Los Angeles police officers whom department leaders wanted to fire, usually because they were suspected of lying or breaking the rules. Do wonder what other crimes they are including in that. Would that be some of the crimes that we have seen people list that LAPD officers are guilty of, such as gang-R-ing women, as well as gang-R-ing fellow officers in front of fellow officers? I wonder if that counts too. In the LAPD, firing a cop is not a straightforward proposition. Even in seemingly clear-cut cases or of serious misconduct, the department's committing crimes, is that misconduct? I just want to know. Is committing crimes considered misconduct? The department's often criticized disciplinary system has led to outcomes in which those involved keep their jobs and continue collecting paychecks. It's the rest of the world, too. It's not just police officers. Some are no longer allowed to patrol or interact with the public, relegated to administrative duties instead. Most jobs you'd be fired, just so you know we're all clear. LAPD officials estimate there are nearly 70 such officers currently on the payroll. Me personally, my opinion is there's more. For months, department and city officials endorsed the idea that hiring lawyers to better argue termination. Oh, but wait. Could it be possible this is just an assertion? I have no proof. What if they're part of the jesters? This is just a guess. It's my opinion. I'm just throwing crazy ideas out there. Endorsed the idea that hiring lawyers to better argue termination cases was a step toward fixing what many feel has become a broken system. But some leaders are already renewing calls for a more radical overhaul. It's not about finding ways to level the playing field. The playing field is flawed. Council member Hugo Soto Martinez, and you know LA Street loves that guy, I'm just being sarcastic, said during a public safety committee meeting last month, "It's abundantly clear that this system is being taken advantage of." Under the city charter, the LAPD chief must send any officer facing termination to a 3-member Board of Rights panel. Are they all is that the same as the internal affairs? The proceedings are kept secret. See this secrecy stuff, guys? It's got to go. All the secrecy is where the R's happen. All the secrecy is where the R-ing of children happens. All the secrecy, look at the jesters and some of the things that go on in the Freemasonic lodges. It's got to go. All of it's got to go. The proceedings are kept secret under state law and play out like a mini trial. Oh, I'm sure that's just on the up and up, don't you think? Sarcasm. With evidence and witnesses, the accused officers are represented by an attorney. You see how inside this is? Supplied by the police union. Oh, I'm sure he's really unbiased, right? And the department sends an advocate to argue its case. I wonder who they mean by advocate. This is insane. And it's not just LA that this is going on. It's everywhere. Part of the problem, a 2022 report from the Inspector General's office suggested, is that the LAPD's advocates are essentially cops with ad hoc legal training who are out of their league arguing against practicing attorneys with law degrees and bar licenses. The other issue, the report said, is that officers can choose judgment from a panel of 3 civilians or 2 police officials. You know they're all handpicked. Come on now. And 1 civilian. In every case over the last 2 years, officers facing termination or long suspensions have opted for an all-civilian panel, which tends to deliver more lenient decisions, department officials said. The hope was that by replacing the advocates in the disciplinary hearings with trained lawyers, depends on which lawyers there are, doesn't it? The civilian panels could be persuaded to impose tougher discipline. Like prison time? Does that include prison time? I just want to know. The department pushed for more money in this year's budget to hire attorneys to work on discipline cases. 4 have been hired so far and began training last month, according to officials. But even as the LAPD increasingly brings more legal firepower to the table, the composition of the panels remains unchanged. See? This stuff goes on in the military as well. Most civilian hearing examiners are former prosecutors. There you go. There you go, you guys. Judges, clergy, or arbiters. The boards determine whether the officer is guilty of an offense, and if so, set the punishment. We're all supposed to believe that this is like really some kind of justice, you know? The police chief may accept or reduce the board's penalty, but cannot increase it. Of the 27 boards held in 2023 for officers, the chief wanted to fire. The accused officer received lighter discipline in 11 cases. So apparently lighter discipline doesn't mean prison time. The department said in 2 instances the boards cleared the officers completely of wrong. I can't help it, you guys. It's just so obvious. In 2 instances, the boards cleared the officers completely of wrongdoing. Of course they did. Love to see where their hands were. The rest were successfully terminated. There have been multiple cases in which the civilian boards have responded to allegations of dishonesty. They love that word, don't they? Against officers by allowing them to remain on the force. The rulings amounted to a verdict of, well, we felt they were lying on the stand, but we thought they were nice guys. Can you believe the stuff they put in print here? Can you believe it? Detective Mark Furness, who runs the LAPD's advocate unit, oh, you know that's on the up and up. I should probably do a video on all this advocate stuff. It's just too much. Told the Public Safety Committee, an advocate unit is the same crap as union, which never helped me. Never. They were all buddies. Big misogyny brotherhood. What the civilians sometimes fail to understand is that officers accused of lying, for instance. What about the R word? Gang R? Does gang R count? Does gang raping a woman, does that count too? Or a man? Can no longer testify in court and thus are required to work jobs with little to no contact with the public, Furness said. I believe that's just to avoid more lawsuits. You're left with an employee collecting a pretty good paycheck. They can't work the field. LAPD Deputy Chief Michael Rimkunas told the committee. Such officers have on average 10 to 15 years on the job, he said, and typically make upward of $100,000 annually. Their credibility is so badly damaged, he said, that most cannot even work the front desk at a police station. Oh, listen to that one, you guys. Presumably because the role would require taking reports that would later be used as evidence in court, which defense attorneys could challenge as being compromised. I'm embarrassed to even say that, said Rimkunas, who runs the bureau that includes internal affairs. Oh, you know, that's just peachy. By his estimate, the all-civilian boards end up being more generous to officers 90+% of the time, compared with hearings that include 2 police officials. This reminds me of that show. Is it called Cold Blue? With Tom Selleck? No, not Tom Selleck. Maybe it is Tom Selleck. It's actually kind of a good show. One explanation is that the civilian panels tend to be reluctant to take away a person's livelihood after hearing about the officer's life at the proceedings, which can include character witnesses. Why does, what's her name, come to mind from La Poubelle? Rim Kunas said other critics have argued that the civilians, there's that word again, just like Scientology, they call them critics. You can't question, you see. If you question, you're a critic. Have argued that the civilians chosen lack the experience to be able to put themselves in the shoes of people impacted by police misconduct or excessive force. Victims, you see? Don't you guys get it? They don't care. They're the law. They get what they want. In a follow-up interview, Rimkunas, I don't know how to say it, acknowledged that adding more lawyers to the equation may not be enough. I mean, unless they're in your club. Whether or not you have a city attorney that can argue a penalty or a department advocate, I'm not sure if it matters, he said. So fluff. All this stuff that they say is just fluff, fluff, fluff. Fluff, fluff, fluff. In recent years, cases abound of officers who narrowly avoided getting fired for misconduct. So apparently that's the only thing that officers get fired for, you guys. They don't get fired for crimes, like the LAPD officer a few years ago who was convicted of pedophilia. He was found dead in his cell, but you know, sucks to be him. The list includes one officer who lied to department investigators. So that's all they do, right? The only thing they're guilty of is misconduct and lying, like little kids. Like, are we in first grade here? Lied to department investigators after getting into an off-duty drunken brawl. That's it, you guys? Which is conduct unbecoming of an officer. That led to an on-duty colleague shooting one of the alleged combatants. Oh my gosh. That's not misconduct, bro. Another was said to have knocked an intoxicated woman out cold. Oh, there you go. Misogyny in full effect. You see, they don't like women. Some of them, not all of them. Intoxicated woman out cold with a pair of punches because he alleged she reached for his badge and grazed his chin. That just reminds me of what happened to Michael. Alleged, right? In both cases, the civilian panels acknowledged wrongdoing by the officers involved. Yeah, I would say that's wrongdoing. In the real world, that's a crime, what they did, or what he did. But chose to suspend rather than fire them. Isn't that great, you guys? As called for by the police chief. The fight to change the department system. Well, the department system is comprised of other officers. So, hello. The fight to change the department system of disciplining officers has gone on for decades with a succession of chiefs. What was that guy, Moonves? Wasn't he a great chief? Wonderful, huh? Complaining about not having the power to fire bad officers. I mean, I have some empathy for them. I do. In the latest effort to overhaul the border rights process, Soto Martinez, every time I say his name, I think of Streets LA, and Council Member Tim McCoster, a former lobbyist for the Los Angeles Police Protective League, are considering a change that could potentially eliminate the all-civilian panels and give the police chief the authority to fire officers outright. That's good. I mean, it can be good and it can be bad. Because you might have somebody like officer tipping that's investigating a gang R of a woman by fellow officers, and then he turns up dead. So you see, you could get officers that are investigating other crimes done by officers could get fired or even worse, end up dead in a so-called training accident, allegedly. At the public safety meeting last month, council members voted to direct city agencies, oh, that should be great, to study how other municipalities handle police discipline. The committee also asked the police commission to report back in 90 days on whether the newly hired attorneys were having an effect. Like, it's just, to me, it's just kind of weird that they're involving attorneys, but maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Broadening the chief's authority would require a change to the city charter through a popular vote. And if I'm honest, I would never want to be a police chief. So I gotta give him that. I would never want to do that job, ever. It's unclear whether any proposal to overhaul the Board of Rights process will be in place in time to make it onto the November ballot. Of course. Fired officers would retain their ability to appeal their punishment under any proposal. But even so, the effort to toughen the disciplinary process is likely to face stiff opposition from the police union. Of course. Oh, what is that old saying? As the web that we weave. But even so, the effort to toughen the disciplinary process is likely to face stiff opposition from the police union, which backed the passage of the charter amendment that gave officers the choice of picking an all-civilian panel. Civilian board members, the union argued, are more likely to judge an officer's actions dispassionately, without worrying about how a decision might affect their careers. They're not in the brotherhood or the fraternity. It's called, what is it called? The fraternity of police for a reason. Feelings that the department's internal investigations are unfair have run deep in the LAPD for years, as have complaints that the system is beset by favoritism. That sounds like some narcissists, like, whining about it. That's just my opinion. And more likely to overlook misconduct by officers of a higher rank. Well, that I would agree. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. When we're running this whole entire unit, like the whole entire planet is run by power, greed, lust, the lower vibrational places, that's what you get. And those are the ones taking payoffs from Hollywood celebrities that drug and rape women, etc. And those who are well connected. There you go. Others have argued that this is long. Others have argued that many cases result in lighter penalties because the allegations against officers are circumstantial. Just keep that in your hat right there. That's one of their outs, the circumstantial. So one of their outs is circumstantial. Another out is statute of limitations. Another out for the child sexual abuse, and this is not exactly police, but with the child sexual abuse, they like to throw out the evidence and they like to attack the child victim that was AR'd numerous times from grown-ass adults. Meanwhile, activists have continued to push for more community oversight. I don't know, why do they always have to call people activists and protesters, you know? Pete White, executive director of the Skid Row advocacy group, Los Angeles Community Action Network, said civilian boards don't represent the public's interest, of course not, and lack transparency, of course they do. Cha-ching! Just like Scientology. But he's equally wary of the idea of concentrating more power in the hands of the chief. The devil is always in the details on these things. It's an interesting statement. I would agree that civilians that are sitting on the boards of rights now are not civilians who the community could count on to hold cops accountable. He said, but I don't believe that giving the ultimate power to the chief of police is the answer. Yeah, that's like an authoritarian. Because I don't have to tell you that day in and out, and that day in and day out, the chief is covering for officers. Facts. It's not just the chief. The bad officers, they're all covering for each other, especially the ones who are women, gang are women, or gang are their fellow officers. Isn't that fantastic? The ones who gang are their fellow officers in front of officers and cover it up. Yeah. So anyways, you guys clearly say I don't give an F. A Time staff writer, David Donaser, contributed to this report. So I'll leave the link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.